Okay, so I was gonna do Faces of Loki tonight, but I misplaced my notes. And then I was just kind of scrolling through Facebook and I saw a comment that related to similar comments I've seen a couple of times. It always kind of irks me. And so, you know me, when it keeps popping up, I know it's my sign. So, what we're talking about tonight is this misconception that you cannot have both science and spirituality because you can't. If you have followed me for any length of time, and especially if you're someone who knows me or is a friend of mine, you know I am a nerd. I love science. I love space. I love all that. I I thrive on it. But yet here I am doing these videos talking about spirituality and spirits and gods and magic. They can go hand in hand. And sometimes the science will actually back it up if you look hard enough and think about it. You know, so that's something I want to talk about because it's really annoying that people think it has to be all one way or the other. Of course, then again, being Locayan, I also know that pretty much nothing is one way or the other. Um, Nothing's black and white. Even science will tell you that. Nothing's all one way. So, what started with it tonight, at least, was someone saying they don't believe in spirits, ghosts, because it defies the laws of physics. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Matter of fact, if you really look at physics, it kind of backs it up, or at least makes it possible, makes you consider it could be possible. There's a lot of stuff that, and that, I mean, basic, you know, late elementary, early middle school science teaches some of these things that could apply here. So we're going to kind of look at that. And it doesn't just apply to ghosts and things. It could be magic or whatever, and we'll kind of touch on it. So that's where we're at tonight. That's what we're doing. Then when it comes to the ghost idea, right? First thing that comes to my mind is, oh Lord, probably middle school, right? Boom, boom, or getting close to it, like fourth or fifth grade. We're all learning the basically the first law of thermodynamics in one way or another, even if they don't call it that yet. We all pretty much know we're studying this foundation of thermodynamics all the way, little kids, let's back up, all the way to like kindergarten, first grade, when we're learning about the states of matter, and we're doing all these experiments to learn about how, you boil the water and it becomes steam. Okay, that's the result of the third law of thermodynamics. So you're learning it all the way back then. Taking it a step further, like I said, when you get further on in school, usually by the time we enter middle school, at least once we have heard brief definition of the first law of thermodynamics, which is energy cannot be created nor destroyed, can simply be altered. Okay, one, that already, now it does not prove, but proves there is a possibility of deity, spirits, etc. Because they're all energy, right? We're energy. Or even our skin and body is energy, just a slower motion. Again, states matter, right? It's all energy moving slower or faster. So if this meat suit finally plays out, where's that energy going to go? Yeah, it can go into the ground. It could go elsewhere. We don't know. We don't know why. We have the thermodynamics. We don't know because a system that is isolated will become more and more disordered. There's also another reason we can't be stagnant. Think of it even mentally. Don't we get stir crazy when we get stuck in the same place too long? You can apply these principles here. So that's the possibility that there are other energetic beings floating around. Whether it be God or spirits, whatever. Don't care. It's just saying it does at least show there is a possibility, even through science. Science shows there's a possibility because if energy cannot be created nor destroyed, where do we come from? We have this when I was younger, Stigmata movie about the stigmata, yes. But one of the things the priest in that movie said was that he was a scientist and he became a priest because there were too many holes in the stories in science. Like there's the Big Bang, but where did that come from? There were these holes in the story. So he went to the priesthood. And then when he got in the priesthood, he realized there were holes there too. There are holes in both sides, and there's also things that line up in both sides if you look at it from the perspective of things are possible. If you don't go into it going, my religion says that can't happen, or science says that can't happen, because 9 times out of 10, it doesn't say it can't happen. It says these are things that do happen, and because it didn't specify specifically this or this, you try to cancel them out. So that's where we get this whole thing with spirits, deities, God, whatever you want. There's these energies all around us. Everything is energy. All of it. Nothing in the universe is lacking of energy. It's just a matter of how fast it's moving, how heated it is. And there you go. So, we talk about magic. That's another cool one too. Okay, so you have back to the second law, right? Excuse me. If a system is isolated, the longer it sits, the energy becomes more and more disordered. It will break out. At the same time, it also includes that as you convert energy, some of it is wasted. If you have a heater and you turn it on and it's pushing out that heat, well, some of that heat is actually like sticking to the walls and in the cord, and some of that heat is actually going to be felt on the device itself instead of being projected. So that energy was wasted in the sense that it didn't actually go where the goal is, but there's nothing you can do about it because that's just the nature of the thing. That applies to when we're working magic and we need to ground and when we need to charge. How many times do we focus on our magic and we are taught, hopefully we're taught very early on when practicing magic, that we have got to ground. You got to raise the energy to do the thing, and then you got to ground again. So think of it from that perspective. That, you know, if people want to try to pull the science thing on it. Okay, so if I, as a system, am pushing energy toward a specific thing, goal, etc., I'm pushing that energy out. Some of that energy is getting wasted. It's falling off, it's going to the ground, it's wasted. So that's part of why, one, we raise our energy before we do the working, because we make sure we have enough, not just to hit the goal, but to make up for the fact that some of it's just gonna not get there. Some of it's gonna fall off. So there is a science behind it. And of course, to get it where it will project or convert in this case, to get it where it will do that, you have to raise it up first, right? You ever notice how people want to use candles and fire in the magic a lot? How we sing and we dance, we move and we drum. Okay, what are we doing? We're heating up. We are heating up, and heating up on top of the focus we're doing, because yes, I do believe there's spiritual aspect. You're combining that with physical movement, motion, heat. Even if it's just standing next to a fire, heat is energy. So you're adding to it. Energy being able to move faster comes from heating it up, like we talked about in the third law. You heat it up, get it moving, get it flowing, it goes faster. And then we shoot for our target. And as we do that, some of the energy falls off. So guess what? We got to kind of pull some back in. We got to ground. We got to center. Because we have expended energy. Magic and science. And one of my favorite statements ever on this topic was Silver Ravenwood. They did a documentary one. And I was watching about witchcraft and magic, etc. And she actually studied not only just physics, but quantum physics. And, during this interview, he talked with her, and she actually said, magic is quantum physics in action. And it is. And actually, it's even some basic physics. And people think physics is just solid natural world, but it's not. It's not. There's so much more to it. And just because, well, similar to like we talk about gender issues and all these other things, there's more science than what you're going to learn in your basic high school class or even in your college courses if you are not in a path that is studying for a degree specifically in science. You're not going to be taught those extra things. I'm not, but I also study and look those things up because my brain thinks it's fun. Okay, you want to know what kind of level nerd I am. That's fun for me. One person I love most in the world, one fun things we used to do, but when that was still a thing, was, he would just call me up at random and ask random science questions and me have to answer it. And that was like the funnest thing in the world for me. Really freaking cool. So, that's done. You don't have to look far. I mean, most of you and I'm not saying you as any bad, you watchers, viewers are bad. What I'm saying is most of the people that say these things online, I think what kills me the most is they say things as if it is a fact, as if it is true, even if it's not. Don't want to look anything up. And like, you obviously have the internet in your hand, or you wouldn't be able to post it on Facebook. So if you have Facebook, you have the internet, which means you can search for things. You might want to try it. That's the part that kills me. And I know we need to let people have their own opinions, yes. But there's a difference in getting to have your own opinion and your opinion being a statement of what is fact or not when it comes to things like that, especially when you're mentioning science or nature or etc. You know, we'll talk about another social example, an example that's not really related to spirituality, but people talk about homosexuality. Well, it's not natural, and it's not natural, and animals don't naturally do blah blah blah. Really? Because multiple species do. Some of them for life, mating for life, in a homosexual relationship. In nature, in animals. But these people will proudly proclaim that it is science. And then when you tell them they're wrong, they say, well, how do you know? Oh, no, because I use the internet for something other than Facebook. Maybe you should. So in this case, I don't have a problem with someone saying, I don't believe in ghosts. Or I don't believe in deity. I don't believe in etc. Okay, you don't believe these things exist. But what I want to know, when you say, I don't believe because of science, or I don't believe because this, it's not just an opinion anymore. It is an opinion followed by a statement of something that is either true or not. So I don't believe in this because it denies, it's against science. Then you better show me where, because I'm going to come in and show you, well, it also says this. So it's not a matter of, I don't want people to have their own opinions. It's a matter of, if it's an opinion, make sure you say it's an opinion and leave it at that. Because once you start bringing in facts, then other people have the right to bring in more facts. We do. And I will. Especially if you try to blame it on science. Or religious texts. Like y'all's not one too. Do that a lot. So then, moving ahead, we've got this thing with energy transference. Okay, it can't be created or destroyed. It has to be. It's just altered. We got that. We're altering the energy when we're doing the magic. And then we also have the way we're supposed to do. Is we're supposed to believe it as if it's already here. And in a way, it is. The energy, you've already raised energy, it's already missing out to do its thing. So, somewhere feasibly, it should be already in existence. It just hasn't gotten here to you yet. So, you can kind of think of it as, a letter in the mail or a package, since like online shopping is so big right now. Okay. So, you order a package and they ship it. It is yours. You have paid for it. It hasn't gotten to your mailbox yet. It hasn't gotten to your front porch yet. But it's still there. It's still yours. It's still on the way. You're happy because you know it's on the way. And Again, calling the kettle black. I'm gonna admit it. I struggle with this a lot. I do. I think a lot of people do. But that's one way to look at it. At the same time, you want to go science, you can look at it as light. Okay. Again, light is type of energy. Heat. Light, we know, travels super fast. And we know, like the sun and the stars, we see that light. It's there, we can see it, but it's not here. And it's nowhere near as close as it looks like it is. Okay? So you look at it kind of like light years. Okay? We have being 1 light year away. There is a light source that is 1 light year away. That thing is still trillions, not billions, trillions of miles away. We can see its light, but if it's only 1 light year away, that is still almost 6 trillion miles away, and we're seeing it. 5.88 trillion, you want to be technical. But we can see it. It's there. And it's trillions of miles away. So again, science backs up the idea that maybe something can be far away and us not see it, but it's still there. So we kind of have to teach ourselves to believe in that hope, hope and faith. I had a conversation with my son recently that there's a slight difference between hope and faith. Hope is when you wish for something. I hope someday I have more money. I hope someday this will happen. Faith is not just wishing for the thing, but believing you're going to have it. Believing it's going to happen. Believing the thing you cannot see. And this is, I can tell you, one of my favorite quotes from the Bible actually still inspires me today, especially dealing with things like this. And that is Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That gets me through a lot. I don't care where it came from. That's like a great definition because it's true. It's accurate. So if my thing I asked for is still 5.88 trillion miles away, my faith lets me know it's still there. If I order a package and it is shipped, yes, you can get a tracking number to keep up with it along the way, but it's not going to make it get there any faster just because you can see where it's traveling, right? Same thing. You do it, it's there. It's yours, just not got to your front porch. Wow. It's really cool if you think about it this way. And then again, when it comes to magic and belief in things, if you take it over, just like I mentioned with the silver raven wolf quote and magic being quantum physics in action. If you go and dive into the quantum physics, then it makes it even more believable that it can happen. You know, talking about your psychic connections between people. Especially a lot of people talk about it with twins, but it can happen with anyone who's really intimately connected. Like it's possible, especially those of us who are just generally sensitive. But well, those kind of psychic connections with another person. People try to deny that. Oh, there's no science behind it. I mean, it is. It's called quantum entanglement. What you do to this particle will have the effect on this particle, no matter how far apart they are. Usually, this happens when the two particles are exposed to the same big event. So, in a case like twins, pretty sure, coming out of the birth canal is a pretty big event. Being born in general is a big event, even if, it doesn't have to be the vaginal birth, it can be cesarean. So cesarean would actually be probably even more big of an event because it's, you know, if you have twins, they go through the same event, and then later they have this connection. They're no different than having two quantum entangled particles, and that's why it will happen no matter where they live. If the kids grow up and move to other sides of the country, even other sides of the world, and they have this connection, that's why these two people particles are entangled. It can happen with people you're close to, too. It can happen with people who are close and have gone through similar events. People who are close in general, the thing, because we share energy. And then that's another thing against me. People want to talk about the whole no ghost thing, but then they still believe in heaven and hell and afterlife. Okay, so how did the soul get there if it stays here? It makes sense, right? Does it? You're contradicting yourself. Science says that if you have energy inside a container and that container busts open, that energy is getting out. So when this decays, that energy is getting out. And they've actually done science experiments and proven that it doesn't wait until your body decays either. It starts to leak out. It starts to travel off. Our whole bodies are energy and electricity. That's all we are. It's literally every bit of us. Because energy, again, we'll go all the way back to elementary school. What is solid matter? It's energy that's just moving super slow. That goes, again, back to your third law, right? Because the closer something gets to an absolute zero, the energy becomes more constant, more solid, more concrete. Energy moving slower becomes more solid. Rocks are energy. We are energy. This big ass coffee cup is energy. And it gives me some too. Well, that's not the point. Some kind of energy. Well, technically, no, it's not. Because energy is energy. We just alter it, right? Raise it up a bit, lower it, send it, receive it. It's all magic and it's all science. I look at, everybody makes jokes about Schrodinger's cat, right? So you can also kind of look at it slightly from that perspective. When you have your magic, and the more we focus on it, the longer it takes to work. sometimes the more we focus on it, the more we doubt, the more there we go. So that cat is either alive or dead based on really how much we mess with it in this particular case. Or the observation theory. Mere active observation makes a change. Particles will react to it. In this case, energy. Everything is energy. You observe it, and it affects a change. It makes a slight change. It does not have to be big. But it's the same principle. So that's why we have to do it and let go of it. And let it happen. And I know it sucks. Because I hate it. The waiting is my least favorite part. But it's still true. We gotta keep our hands off of it. Gotta keep our hands off of it. So, you could really take this topic to so many different levels. Even into the area of more like religion and creation, etc. Whether you believe it was God that did it or it just happened. Okay. You can believe in Big Bang and you can still believe that something made it happen. Because again, just like the priest in the movie Stigmata we were talking about, well, where did that energy come from? When we talk about wormholes, we talk about black holes, super gravity sucking it in, and then there's the event horizon. It has light on it. Otherwise, you couldn't see around it, right? There's that event horizon that's around it. Bright lights swirling everywhere. But inside, it's just that seems pretty magical to me. Yes. Well, as far as creation myths, almost every culture in the world has a story of a void that life somehow sprang from this void. What would Big Bang be if not life springing from a void? They all have some connection to cosmic waters and this void that gets filled. We have the cosmic waters in Egyptian mythology that God rose out of, created God, and then made everything else. We have in Norse mythology, we could know that a giant void, and then on either side of the void, we have the heat from Muspel and the freezing ice in Niflheim. And when the heat, energy, hit the ice, it melted, made water, which trickled into, revealing Ymir. And then when they killed him, his body was taken into the middle of the Nova Gap, and this void was then filled. Christian Bible, talking about the book of Genesis, and everyone focuses on in the beginning God created heaven and earth. But then you read into it, that's like the opening statement, and then it goes into the story of how. And then in the telling of how, it says, there was the void, And the Spirit of God floated above the waters. It doesn't say created the water. Actually, when you get to the waters and the oceans part, it says that he created land to divide the waters that were already there, that he was floating above before. So again, it's very similar to the story of water. God came out of it. God made other things. It's this ongoing thing. So the reason I mention that in this particular subject, what a lot of people don't think about is in a galaxy, in almost every galaxy, there is a supermassive black hole. Now, when black holes, they suck in things, right? We don't know how they came in. We don't know how they happened. But one of the big theories is this universe, galaxy, whatever. Okay, so it swirls. Again, we got science. So as it goes on and on and on, eventually it's going to become more and more disordered, and it's going to start swirling more. There's this whole gravity. There's your black hole. Black hole's gravity. However you believe the black hole happened, one thing we do know is, even if we don't even have to know how they happen, what we do know is the black hole, after it is sucked in so much, will eventually push stuff back out of it. And we've actually, this was a theory for many, many years. For many years, there was a theory that this could happen. And then we got proof of it. And then recently, we've actually got photographs of it. We know it happened. So you have these stories of creation in a void floating around, and then suddenly life, heat, energy brings out of it, and we have God, which eventually created everything else. Same thing happens in science. The black holes, it swirls and swirls and swirls, and all this stuff comes together, and after so much time, it shoots back out. And then those particles of dust and stardust and light and heat, they spread out, and then they can become another galaxy, another universe. It goes on. And even though, yeah, it's just a theory, but science is like that, which is another reason you should never say you can't have spirituality and science, because they both involve a whole lot of theory. They do. Because of one of them, we can test more easily. So there's your creation story right there. So whether you believe it's by God or just happenstance, it still fits together. You can believe both, because science, yes, stars and particles and dust and energy spew out of the black hole, and they grow and expand, come other things. But science doesn't say where the black hole came from quite yet. Science doesn't say where this energy came from quite yet. We don't know. So what's the harm in believing that some deity, being, even alien if you want, but what is the harm in believing that something, someone, some being made it happen. Again, if you can't create energy, you can't destroy it, you can't create it, then they always were. Energy always was. It just keeps getting recycled. And again, almost every culture and belief system in the world includes cycles. To some extent, even Christianity does. You know, we have our nature-based cycles. We have in Norse mythology, we have Ragnarok. And what happens after Ragnarok? Everything burns away, and then new life springs forward. Book of Revelation, the Bible, pretty much the same thing, because yes, it has the earth destroyed by fire. Kind of wonder where that idea came from. Earth is destroyed by fire, and the world will melt with fervent heat. And then all those who were taken that were still alive, not the dead, but, and yeah, no, them too, because after the world melts, all the people are taken to a new heaven and a new earth. Kind of like we rise back up after Asgard falls, huh? Again, it cycles. And again, this thing collapses, it turns into a black hole, it sucks everything down with it, and then pshoo, this fire spews out, stardust everywhere, and not see. Stardust comes out, everything blows, there's new life, it's a new universe, a new galaxy. And if you want to doubt it, then tell me. Tell me why. Because again, almost every galaxy has a supermassive black hole, not just existing in it, but at near the center. Almost every one. And we also know, we have proof that they do start colliding into each other. Various galaxies they move, they collide. So again, we have, science does not disprove that religion and spirituality can exist. Religion, spirituality does not necessarily defy science. It's a give and take on both of them. They can coexist. Now, when you're the kind that wants to do your spirituality despite science and try to claim things that, you only live this way and this way, but usually that's not your spirituality. It's like just do things that people just come up with and make it spiritual. If you're coming up with stuff that absolutely, totally knocks out the possibility of science being right, or is exact opposite of what science has proven, that's when we have problems. Now, I'm not saying theories, because again, both have theories. But when we have something that has proof, that is a fact, and you try to say that you don't believe this because of this, make sure those actually line up and that this really does match the opinion you're saying, and not just something you heard or thought or whatever without looking it up. We can have both. We can have magic. We can have spirits and gods and beings of all sorts. And we can still have science. There's no, it doesn't have to contradict. It doesn't have to stop you from believing one or the other. They can go together. You stop acting like our spirituality means we have to be against science. And for my fellow nerds out there, stop acting like science means that you can't believe in spiritual things. The two do not contradict as much as we try to tell ourselves, because we've still got our mindsets, and it's really only been in the last few hundred years, maybe 1,000, in line with the whole one right way crew. That's when we started applying this all one way or the other crap to everything, including spirit and science. Nothing is black and white. Everything is a spectrum. Everything is ongoing. Everything is a cycle. When you don't have to deny one to believe the other. You really don't. I think I'm done. That's the key. Just remember, look at it from a different perspective. I personally love the combination of spirituality and science. I like to look for the connection. I love it. It's again, it's fun for me. I'm just that level of weird. I love finding those connections because that can also help bridge the gap of hatred between the two groups. I also love it because it's fun and it validates, like, when science can validate something I believe in, that's awesome. It really is. I mean, something I believe in, science can look at it and go, maybe we should study that. And they do. They can work hand in hand, and I just find it fascinating. So between that and then you're what some people call pseudoscience, there's really a lot it can offer on both sides. And we've got to stop acting like we can't have both. Because, I mean, here I am again. You see me on here at least, what, once a week? Maybe twice? Every 2 weeks at the most? But I'm on here all the time, online, Facebook. Those of you who are my friends, people who actually know me in person, you all know I'm a witch. I'm psychic. I'm a priest, so I kind of need to believe in a religion, right? I have all this spiritual stuff, and I'm also a big nerd that loves science and space and technology. They don't have to fight. I mean, I'm this weird combination of both. And you're acting like groups of people can't work together on both sides. Like, okay, so those big giant groups of people can't work together, believing both, but yeah, apparently a single person can even operate properly with both. So why couldn't the groups, if they just stop fighting each other? And that's the biggest thing. Let's stop fighting each other. And at the end of the day, they don't contradict as much as we try to tell ourselves they do, because we don't have to be so concrete one way or the other. That's got to stop. And on top of that, the biggest thing is, if what they're believing or saying does not hurt you or others and does not encourage hurting others, let it ride. Again, you can defend your stance if they say it's because of a fact, because a fact is not an opinion. You can stand around the fact. But as a whole, Why argue? At the end of the day, none of us know if we are right or wrong until the day we die. For certain, I mean. And if some groups are right, then we won't even know then. We'll just be. Just be. So anyway, again, there's way more that could be discussed. I'm not going to. It's getting late. I didn't mean to take this long. You know how I ramble. Especially when you get me on topics I really like. So I hope it made sense to you. I hope I learned something from it. And in general, just know you can have both, and both sides need to stop fighting each other over that. You can have both. Spirit and science can go together. Okay? Oh, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for letting me bring out both of my obsessions in one conversation. And y'all have a great night, and I'll be back with a reading probably tomorrow or the next day. You all have a good night, and I'll see you soon.